Hi, welcome to Philip Teaches Cartooning. I'm Philip Briggs. Today I'm going to walk you through my process of taking an idea from the very beginning all the way to the finished cartoon. Uh, why I'm doing this is when I first started drawing cartoons, I just thought cartoonists had all this creativity and ideas just pop into their minds. But I watched a documentary with Charles Schulz, and he said if you don't have a process, then you'll never make it in this business. So I worked on developing my process of taking cartoons from an idea all the way to the finished drawing. First, where do we start? The very start I have found is coming up with what do you want to draw a cartoon about. I have my character Benny Blue Note, who is a guitar player and he likes to play blues and jazz. And I based it off, if you can't see behind me, I have my guitar. I enjoy playing guitar, so I based him off of me. So if I want to draw a cartoon about a guitar, so I'll start out with guitar. And under there, I come up with several different things about guitar. One of them I was thinking about before this is practicing. So now we merged it down to a smaller area of practicing. How do we come up with a funny cartoon idea? And I learned from watching comedians and how to tell jokes. Usually, a good cartoon is based on oppositions. You have one story, and then you have another story, and then they have a conflict that people find funny. And when I tried applying this to cartoons, I noticed, especially in cartoons like Herman, where there would be an image that would set up one expectation, and then the text that would set up another expectation. And I've learned to how to formulate those to be opposed to each other for humor. So in this, let's take practicing. If I think about practicing, I also think about guitar lessons. And so from there, I can think of some ideas. Okay, what if there's a kid here who wants to learn guitar and he's sitting through a lesson with his guitar? And then there's a teacher over here, and I'm going to make that Benny for this example, who's teaching the guitar. Now we have a regular situation of lessons and sitting in a room and playing guitar. What are some ideas that come from there? Okay, how do we learn guitar? And you can do in person. There's audio lessons. There are video lessons. And that's how I learned a lot when I was growing up. And now, and how can we break that? Or how do we learn? Well, right now I can see there's some conflict right here between in person and video lessons. And then if I think about it, they're sitting in this room. What if this kid prefers to video lessons and his parents are making him go to in person lessons? And from there, I think, okay, what would be a situation that creates that conflict within that image? And what if this kid says to the teacher, I prefer learning from videos? Okay, now we have a little bit of conflict between because Benny's stuck having to give in person lessons. This kid wants video lessons. How can Benny accommodate that? Well, what if we put Benny's head in a TV and we'll give it kind of make it an old fashioned TV here. And now then we have the kid, and now you can say, "Thank you. I prefer learning from video lessons." And that's how I came up with this idea. This is a short walkthrough. I'll do a more in-depth video on how this process actually goes step by step in the future. But here's the idea. So this kid's having to take in-person lessons. Benny's having to give and learn in-person lessons. The kid prefers video lessons, part of the YouTube generation. And Benny is accommodating him by sitting inside a TV in this in-person lesson. So let's take that to a finished cartoon now. The first thing I do is I import my standard outline for the cartoon, and this saves me a ton of time. I don't have to draw this every time. I just add it every time I want to use it. And now I need to sketch out the idea. I kind of had the idea before, but I need to refine the idea to make it easier to draw. So we have the kid over here. Let's draw him like that, sitting in a chair. And then we have Benny over here. And for me, a cartoon is funniest when the characters are very expressive. So how can we make Benny expressive in this? What is he feeling having to do this, accommodate this kid in video? I picture him like, ugh. So I want to, and as soon as I do that, ugh, I kind of sit back in my chair and bend my back in defeat. And so that's how I'm going to draw Benny here. He's like, ugh, I have to do this. And well, I'll put the seat back there to make it clear that Benny's sitting back a little bit. And if you've ever been to guitar lessons, my experience is they always have kind of these less expensive chairs that aren't the most comfortable. But so we'll do that, and then I'll refine the sketch some more here. Get Benny's feet there, and then I have my standard setup where the nose is about halfway down. And then I really want to emphasize that so I'm gonna put it like this and put his mouth like that, and then his ear, put his hat on because he's always wearing his hat. And then I need to put the guitar here. Headstock. And then this kid, I'll give him a small nose. And of course he's happy and talking. And then the hair. Then he needs a guitar, so I'll build his guitar here. And then I need to add the TV over Benny. So I'll draw that in next. And make it kind of 3D here. I need to add a little bit of an edge. And then just for humor's sake, I think I'll put a couple of antennas. The new kids probably won't get it, but older people will get the antennas. And then I have a more refined sketch now. It's getting out a little beyond there, so I'm going to move this over and shrink it just a little bit to get it nice and centered in the frame. So now I have the rough sketch. I've been drawing Benny for a while, so I don't have to refine the sketch a whole lot to be able to do a finished drawing with him. I just mainly need the overall how he's sitting and posture and everything. And once I have that, I can switch over to inking. And I think I'll start with Benny because he's going to be easiest. I want kind of a pained expression on his face. Then the hat goes here. Fill in his hair. When I'm doing his hair, if you'll notice, these thicker lines, I'll usually match up to where the thicker lines on the hair are, and then put thinner lines around. And then as I'm drawing it, I'm trying to mix up thick and thin lines just for making things look interesting. Then we'll do his guitar here. Draw his hand. The sleeve. Now, I don't want to fool you. I've been drawing this character for a while, and I can do a lot of it without a whole lot of sketching and everything else. But when I first got started, I would sketch out everything in a lot more detail. And that's just how it starts. And I think that's when I watch all the professional cartoonists like Charles Schultz and Jim Davis, and they get on there and they'll draw Snoopy or Charlie Brown or Garfield and do it really quick. And I thought, gosh, I have to do these perfectly every time. But I realized they've just been drawing them so long, it's become like writing. You can write a word without stopping and thinking about a letter. But when you go back and the kid's first learning how to write, they have to trace and copy and learn the ABCs. And drawing cartoons are a lot like that. At first, you have to do a lot of tracing and copying and learning, but as you get better and better and better, it requires less and less of that, where you can just go more directly to your character without a lot of sketching and filling out. So here's Benny's guitar. And put his fingers here. Put the headstock here. The tuners. I usually don't do a lot of detail on the guitar. I just want it to have an overall general look. Then it comes over here. I make it a cutaway so it's easier because he's a blues and jazz player and needs to get up higher on there. And then fill in the frets here. And then I'll do strings really lightly, and I want those to be straight, so I'm holding it down. I'm using Procreate to make those lines nice and straight here. And then he's sitting in his chair here. Again, I want him kind of leaning back and not being very happy as a teacher, having to get inside of a TV for this kid here. And then his tie and shirt and suit go like that. It goes under here. Give him some fancier shoes. Put the sole on. And I'm not liking up here because when I lean back, my shoulder goes naturally higher up. So I want to add that little detail in here, like that. Now I have his body. I needed the chair underneath here. And I need to not forget to do the TV, so I'll add the TV. When I'm drawing, I like to add in a lot of these broken lines just for visual interest. And I'll try and vary it thick and thin like that. And then I want this to look like an uncomfortable box, so I'll put in kind of a back here to make it look more 3D. Like that, and then I'll add in this hat here. Of course, this hat is bent because he's in this little box here. And I want to refine this a little bit so it looks bent, but still looks like a round hat. And if you notice here, I need to bring that line across there. I'm actually going to make this easier on myself and put it on a different layer. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can go back to this layer and erase in through here without affecting that line I just drew, the TV line. Add those antenna. Because Benny just grabbed this probably from the trash out back, so we can do this for the kid. And add a little bit of just simple lines to add interest. And I need to finish the chair, so let me add the legs. I'll make the legs really simple on this drawing. Usually I add a little bit more. And then the chair's coming up back through here. You know, I think I'm just going to fill this entire space right here with the back of the chair. I'll do it the same color. Now I need to add in the kid. And he's super excited. My character Jake, who I first developed, has a round head, so I'm actually pretty quick with round heads. Now, if I drop this, see how it has that broken line? It's going to flood fill the entire thing, so I don't want to flood fill that unless all those lines are connected. Flood fill the mouth, and then he's playing guitar, so put in his hand here. I think I've got everybody in long sleeves because it's fall right now and turning colder. I'll give him a clunky Stratocaster. I don't like how those lines are doing, so I want to make the guitar body come more up in here. that. And then give him some legs and shoes. He's probably cool in his tennis shoes here. Make them Converse or a Converse knockoff. I think I'll make them high tops just for fun. Then his shirt and draw down through here. Oh, that arm didn't come out right. Sometimes when I'm drawing these, I'll have to get in the actual pose. You can't see my arm, but I'll have to pose myself to get a good idea of what it would look and feel like. Then the strap needs some strings. Bridge. And then we need to add this chair in here. Now turn off the background sketch and see how it's looking. And if I like it, I think I like it. I do want to merge this down to there. And also Benny usually plays a hollow body. So I'll add in the hollow body there and some controls. And I think that is good for the inks, and I can start adding color. Now, if you follow me, you know that I always start out with the skin tone of the main character. It just gets me going quickly without thinking or stopping or anything. I can just immediately go into it and get the color started. For me, I always talk about I like engineered creativity, which I mean by that I mean habits and standard processes just to make the drawing process as easy on me as possible, so I don't have to sit down and think too much about a lot of stuff. I can just start getting it done. At the same time I'm doing him, as I'm doing Benny, I'm going to work on this kid here too and just go in and add his colors at the same time on the same layer. Next, I'm going to add in Benny's hair. Benny has brown hair. So I do it, just kind of scribble it in. And I want to kind of blend it a little bit down to his forehead here, so I'll add in some lighter chops. For the kid, I need to add in some hair. I think I'll just make him blonde, just to have something different here. And now that I have that, I'll move on to, what I forgot on this layer is shoes. I usually put shoes and hair on the same. They're far enough away that I can work on one without affecting the other. And for Benny, he always has brown hair and brown shoes, just to make it, that's just what he wears, and so I just usually put them on the same. For the kid, I'm going to put him in some bright red Converse shoes here. And I want to add the white here. That way if I decide to add in a background, it won't go through. And now then, I think I'm going to do the TV next because that's such a prominent part for Benny. I'm just going to make it kind of a dull gray here. And this is such a huge shape, it just would not make sense not to do a fill if I can get away with it. I got out of the line just a little bit there, so I'll clean that up. And I missed a little bit up here, so I'll put that in. Now, if there's any spots that I needed to remove, then I could go in here, like right here. I think it's going to be easier for me if I erase these areas so I can make the blue, and it's all going to sit behind the TV layer. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. So I'm going to erase that because that's part of Benny's suit here. And now that I have that, the hat needs to be blue, but I need it on top of the TV. So I'll go ahead and put that in. Once again, it's a big shape, so I'm going to outline it and then do a fill on it. Like that. And then I'm going to drop beneath. And here's why I put that, erase that, so I can go behind it and do his suit as blue without having to be careful about where I'm putting everything. As I'm doing this, I'm not lifting my pen. Well, I missed some place in here. I'm missing something, so I'm just going to fill it in by hand. It won't take long. One of the best things I learned when working digitally, which in either in Procreate or in any other program, is how to use layers to my advantage to make things as easy as possible. So I do this, and then I know it'll be easier for me to color in the guitar on top of the suit. So when I go in and do the shading, it'll be super easy. But before I do the shading, I want to add in the white for his shirt and collar here. And then I'm going to give him a dark red tie there. And now I can go in and add the guitar. For his guitar, I have been making it kind of an orangey thing, and that's so that the colors are reflected throughout the character and repeat over and over and over so that the whole drawing looks cohesive altogether. So once I have that, for his suit, I need to add in his cuffs that I give him. like that. And now then lastly, I need to add in the guitar neck. I'm just going to make it brown. And just to keep it simple for here, I'm just going to make the headstock brown also. So I got Benny drawn in. I want to add in the kids' colors now. And of course the kid's going to come in blue jeans. So I'll give him some blue jeans here. And then for his shirt, I think I'll just make it, I'll make his shirt green, just so it looks different than everything else. And I could flood fill it like I did the other big shapes, but it's a pretty small area. So I'll just work through it like that. Then for his guitar, what color? I think I'll make it red, a red Stratocaster. And then I'm going to give it a maple neck here, I think. And the last things I need to do are the seats. They're going to be on the very back. And I'm just going to make those gray to keep it simple. All the seats that I've ever had in guitar lessons have been black. So now that we have all this, I can go in and start the shading. I'm going to turn off the alpha. By doing this, it's called alpha lock. It means anything that's not colored, when I go over it, won't get colored. And it just helps me not having to stay in carefully into lines, and it makes shading a lot easier. Because when I do the shading, it's only going to affect the things I've actually colored in. So I'll start out with the hair here. And I like this acrylic brush for my shading. It's a little big, because I can both do things like drag and also use it as dotting. And I use this color a lot. It's kind of an orangey red. To blend everything together, I try and put it all over the place so that the whole thing looks more cohesive here, and everything looks like it goes together. Now I'll move on to their skin and see how that alpha lock helps me not having to worry about getting everything perfect. Just painting onto the things that are already colored. And I like to give rosy cheeks here, so I'll do that by dotting them in here. Just more variation for the skin colors. Like that. And now then I will move on to shading the hat with this dark blue in the acrylic. It's just, I could do more of a 3D effect, but I like my cartoonings to look more cartoony, like what I grew up with. Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera and other things, and those were more flat, and so I don't do a lot of intense 3D work. And then I'll move on to, I want to do his suit next, since I'm already working on blues. So I'll just add in some shading here. And then I like to use this light blue just to kind of make it pop out a little bit, not look so flat. And I forgot to do shoes while I was shading up here. I better do those. And for Benny's shoes, I'm going to drop in just a touch of that orangey red. I also want to go back and add in just a little bit on his suit and hat. Again, it just kind of makes everything cohesive by repeating the colors throughout. I'll work on his guitar. The first thing I'll do is the neck here. I'm just going to put a little bit of light there, then a little bit of dark on the bottom, like that. Add in a little bit of that orange red there. For his guitar, I'm going to use kind of this darker red here to add some color to it. And a bit of that brighter red to make it pop out. And then just a tiny bit of shading on this to give it that 3D effect there. And I'm noticing on his hands, there's a little bit of blue showing through here, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And then again, drop in a little of that color for variation. Now I'm going to work on the kids shading here. And there's a lot of dark green, so I'm going to add a little light green here just for some variation. I want to bring in that little bit of that orange for cohesiveness, so everything kind of blends in together. Then I'll work on his jeans here. Like that. I'm going to make his knees a little bit more in there. And again, that orange red, just so it all kind of blends together. For his Stratocaster, I'm going to shade it. And add some highlights in here. And then for his neck, I'm just going to add a little bit of shading through there, not much. And so we got the hair, we got their bodies. I need to work on the chairs. Just make them look a little bit shaded there, like they're seated on them, like that. And the final thing I need to work on is the TV here. So add the shading on the back here. I like how that's looking nice and boxy here. Very confining. That would make me unhappy. And then up at the top here, I'll add a little bit more shading. Drag it down a little bit. And then I'll do what I've done before, which is try to make it a little bit more cohesive by bringing in some of those other colors. I do want to bring in some blue also here, since this hat is in here. And I'm liking it, except around the rim here, I think I want to make it more light. But I don't want to come in with a solid color. So I'm going to add in some highlights here. And then on this back here, I'm going to add in the shading. That, and again, it doesn't take much, but just a little bit of these same colors reflected through, I think, adds a lot of cohesiveness to it. Now I'm going to go in and add in the eyes. I've known some people that just leave them like blank or nothing there for the paper to shine through. But if I export it as a ping or want to put it a background on this, having those colored in lets me do that. Now that I've done that, I will add in shading underneath their chairs. That's way too dark because I didn't get the acrylic. And what this does to me is visually join these two people together so they're not sitting separate, but they're in the same room. Like that. I'll enlarge it a little bit and go back over it again. Now to darken it underneath their seats. And then add a little bit more for that TV. I need to add in the text here. So go to the top. I'm going to choose black. And this is what I used to ink there. And then what I had planned on saying was, thank you, I prefer learning from video. So, you know, when I'm doing this, it's easy to get off kilter. I want to make these a little bit straighter, so I'm gonna add some straight lines in here just to keep me on track as I'm lettering. I'll put in 4 in case I need 4. I can adjust this up and down later. Now I can ink in. Thank you. I prefer learning. I'm running out of space there. I read somewhere where Bill Watterson would have this problem when he was first starting out too. Okay, I'll turn that off. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. And we'll see how it looks. And then I'm going to draw in the word bubble here. I'll have it go a little bit behind him. Back up and zoom in so I can match this better. And then draw that in. Erase those lines. And then I'm going to fill this in with white again in case I want to do something with the background. You know, what I didn't do was join those lines. So I need to go in here and join those up. So I can do a flood fill here. Missed it again right here. There we go. Now we got that. I think I want this a little bit behind. I'm going to see what it looks like here. If I erase here out to the edge of the TV so that the word bubble is sitting behind the TV. You know what would actually be easier? If I took this and dropped it behind the TV layer. So I like it, but the background, the white backgrounds, I don't like that so much. So I'm going to change the white background to kind of a grayish blue. And I think for Benny and the TV, I want to make it look more like a screen. So I'm going to put this, I need to put this on top. I don't need those anymore, so I'll clear that layer and put some like he's in a TV screen. Like that. It's a little distracting. I don't like how I did those lines. I want his face being more noticeable. I think I like that a lot better. Okay, that is the drawing for today. Thank you for watching.